An endless carpet of ultramarine blue stretched out before us as far as the eye could see. 360 degrees of nothing but a rippled mirror reflecting the cloudless sky above. Sunlight glinting off the ridges and peaks, an occasional white cap, and the low drone of the twin Volvos powering us across the Straits of Florida. The depth finder blinked. 6,000 feet of nothing but water below us. No land, no safety net, just the vastness that lay out before us and below us. This was the part of the trip that was no longer just a pleasure cruise. It was an adventure, a test of nerves. We were looking at 6 hours of open ocean. Not a soul in sight, no cell signal, no Wi-Fi. We're completely disconnected, which is a rare thing these days, and if anything goes wrong here, we're in a tight spot. Figuratively speaking, of course. The waves weren't particularly high, but the rhythmic roll of the sea made it clear we were far from shore and far from anything resembling civilization. With his uncanny prescience, Kevin thought this was the perfect time to stop the boat and fly the drone. Man, we got to get some drone shots of us out here in the middle of the ocean. Despite the steady 14-knot headwind and the fact that the drone had to not only fight the wind, but ultimately land on a moving target, it was a sketchy proposition. He launched the drone, immediately lost it in the sun, then ordered Tim to turn the boat and try to catch up to it. He managed to gain visual sight of the tiny aircraft, flew a few pre-programmed routes around the boat, and 10 nervous minutes later, he landed it 2 feet from where it had taken off. Not bad for a new drone pilot. Six days earlier, we had started this adventure, leaving the Marina in Wrightsville Beach and heading to the Bahamas. That morning, Kevin, Bobby, and I had met up with Jesse and Captain Tim at the dock and loaded up. Within minutes, we were pulling away, Kevin at the helm, all of us in parkas and toboggans fighting off the 33-degree nip in the air. As the sun made its way above the horizon, we glided out of Wrightsville Beach and into the open ocean. We got a quick introduction to the 2 to 4 foot seas with an occasional 5-footer thrown in for good measure. Not exactly deadliest catch material, but big enough to turn a few stomachs for the next couple hours. Bobby and Jesse both said I had a lovely green cast to my face for the entire morning as I was fighting the urge to chum the waters behind us. For the next 5 days, we would slowly make our way down the eastern seaboard. Starting on day 2, the weather and the sea state pushed us out of the ocean and into the intercoastal waterway, doubling our anticipated 3-day trip to our Bahamian destination. Despite the beautiful predictions, you never know what Mother Nature is going to throw your way. Our vessel for this voyage was the Daybird, Kevin's 52-foot super sleek Prestige 520 fresh from France and barely 6 months on the water. And let's call it what it is, a yacht. By definition, a yacht is a powered boat equipped for cruising, and that is exactly what it is. A powerful boat fully loaded with the latest cruising technology and creature comforts. It would also be our home away from home for the next 10 days. This boat has it all: a full kitchen, a coffee maker that was essentially an electronic barista, fridge, freezer, ice maker, couches, beautiful staterooms, 2 bathrooms, a fly deck, captain's quarters, and not to mention all the tech stuff. And last but not least, a jet-powered tender, that small dinghy that hangs off the back and gets you places the big boat can't reach. It's the hidden superpower that takes the whole boating thing to 11. The Intracoastal Waterway, or ICW, is a path of connected waterways that, as the name suggests, are inside the coastline. This means that the water is much calmer than the ocean, but the going is so much slower. It's like taking back roads versus the highway. The scenery is unbelievable, and you get a lot of time to take it in. I'd say 80% of the time we were going no more than 7 or 8 knots. That's less than 10 miles an hour. Anytime we passed a floating dock or a fisherman or smaller boats, we would slow down to no-wake speeds. And only after passing could we pick up the pace a bit, but only until the next feature came along. With all the slow going, we had plenty of opportunity to take in the classic southern coastal scenery. We passed bridges and marshes, saw dolphins, diving pelicans, and there were capsized boats, both old and new. One morning, as we crept our way out of the Jekyll Island Marina, the sky was completely overcast and a heavy fog blanketed the shoreline. We slowly made our way past a sprawling industrial complex that looked more like an alien Death Star than the wood pellet factory it was purported to be. For 30 quiet minutes, it felt like drifting through a black and white film noir. Another stretch of the ICW took us through a particularly wealthy-looking area somewhere in Georgia. These folk obviously took serious measures to ensure their quiet paradise stayed that way. As we passed through, we must have been going a bit too fast for someone's liking, and they complained to the local authorities. Within minutes, a police boat with blue lights flashing and, ironically, leaving his own wake, came speeding up to us, demanding to link up. He gave us some lecture about paying attention to signs, blah, 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 gave us a warning, and sent us on our way, adding a good 30 minutes to our 12-hour journey that day. I can only assume he felt he had justified his existence for one more day. With lots of time to do a whole lot of nothing, life on the boat was a bit of an adjustment from our everyday lives. Time slows down and the stress begins to fade. We played a lot of music from a lot of different genres. Yacht rock, of course, The Grateful Dead, Tom Petty, Bob Marley, Bossa Nova, the Beastie Boys, even Ernest Ranglin. The variety of music made a great soundtrack as we told story after story, endlessly recounting past adventures, crazy times back in college, and everything in between. Over time, the conversation became a free-flowing stream of consciousness between the five of us. A thought pops up, you mention it, and it sparks 20 minutes of banter. Rinse and repeat. The one constant each day was food. We had enough food and liquor to meet our needs and then some. We had burgers and chicken. I think we went through 6 pounds of bacon before we reached Florida. Eggs, sausage, potatoes, pasta, veggies, and fruit. Kevin kept saying, "Not gonna starve today," and we certainly did not. We would start each day with a big breakfast and end each day at the marina with bourbon and a delicious king's feast of a meal. Life was very good. Each day started in one marina and ended in another. Wrightsville Beach Marina in North Carolina, Charleston City Marina in South Carolina, Morning Star in Georgia, Port Canaveral, New Smyrna, and Palm Beach Marinas in Florida. Each one was unique in its own way. Charleston's marina was impressive to pull up to, with its big floating dock and several really nice big boats harbored there. They had a nicely dressed crew waiting on the docks for us to pull close while they tied off the Daybird. The long rows of black and white balusters made for a nice contrast to the blue water, and both the sunset that evening and the sunrise the next morning were nothing short of glorious. Morningstar Marina, on the other hand, was a small, simple little marina that felt almost countryish. Port Canaveral required us to go through a lock system in order to enter it. The marina itself was pretty basic. It was smallish, and there were a bunch of regular boats docked there on one side of the inlet. But on the other side of the inlet were these immense Disney cruise ships. The best part of this place was the quirky marina store and game room. Oh, and laundry. Bobby did a load of laundry, and while that was running, he, Tim, and I played 8-ball and watched Happy Gilmore in its entirety.
The price is wrong, bitch.
New Smyrna felt more like Florida. The nice weather certainly helped that, but it also had that Florida vibe. You could just feel it as we came into the harbor, passing loads of sunbathers on the shore and small crafts enjoying the warm waters. But Palm Beach Marina was unlike anything we had seen so far. Before we had even arrived at our marina, we had passed at least a dozen mega yachts. We're talking 100, 150 feet long and $200-300 million a piece. It's easy to feel like a small fish in a very big pond in that place. There was easily over $1 billion worth of ships in less than a square mile. In an unfortunate turn of events, Kevin got sick and was out for the day. While he rested, the rest of us took a side trip to Kennedy Space Center. As you walk in the park, the first thing you notice are these huge rockets. The rocket garden, as they call it, is filled with life-sized replicas of vintage rockets. It's so crazy to walk around these things and see how big they really are. The Mars experience was really cool. It had full-size models of all the various Land Rovers that have landed there. It's so cool to see all the thought that went into designing these remote-controlled robotic data collectors. The shuttle exhibit showed us how their program was developed, how it grew and eventually closed out. There was even a full-size shuttle hanging from the ceiling with the bay doors open. I'm pretty sure it was the real shuttle. At the end of the program, there's a display that shows the right side of the doomed Challenger shuttle and the mangled cockpit frame from the Columbia. It was pretty humbling. Our last stop was the Astronaut Hall of Fame, complete with Neil Armstrong and a recreation of the Mercury Mission Control Room.
Very good. Pitch -3. Roger.
At the end of the day, our inner geeky kids were happy, and after exiting through the gift shop, we grabbed a Starbucks and an Uber and headed back to meet Kevin on the boat. Our first stop in the Bahamas was Chubb Key, Key being spelled C-A-Y. I guess you can say K or Key, and each is acceptable, but I'm going with Key because it rolls off the tongue better than K. Anyway, Chubb Key is where we landed after crossing the Straits of Florida. We never actually set foot on the land part of the island. We just moored ourselves out in the bay, cooked dinner, drank bourbon, and watched the full moon rise above a gorgeous shoreline. Later that night was a full lunar eclipse followed by a blood moon. The next morning we were greeted by the setting full moon and a beautiful sunrise. After a quick fuel stop, we were on our way to the fabled Atlantis. Not the underwater city, but rather the over-the-top sprawling pink palatial compound that screams opulence. The cruise from Chubb to Nassau was sunny and smooth, as if the ocean had decided we'd earned a break. As we crossed a stretch known as the tongue of the ocean, beneath the relatively calm surface, the water went from 30 feet deep to a mind-blowing 6,000 feet of ocean below us. That's deeper than the Grand Canyon. We crossed this huge chasm in short order, and before long we were pulling into Nassau Harbor. We motored past 4 docked cruise ships that were so big we estimated they unloaded some 15,000 people onto this tiny island. Pulling into Atlantis, we docked in our assigned slip, checked in, gawked at a few mega yachts, then immediately headed for the pool. Because 5 days on a boat surrounded by water clearly wasn't enough water for us. From there, we explored the water park, which was so ridiculously over the top that it would take an entire video of its own to cover. We were too busy having fun to take pictures, so these cheesy stock images will have to do. That night, we had sushi and ice cream, shots of Jameson, met a race car driver, and won some money at the roulette table. As fun as all that was, less than 24 hours after we had arrived, we were pulling out again, this time heading to Shroud Key, a secluded island in the Exuma Land and Sea Park. This was the Bahamas we'd been dreaming of. Judging by the number of mega yachts we passed, this place is relatively unknown except to the 0.1 percenters. Two and a half hours later, we dropped anchor in paradise and did absolutely nothing. Because sometimes doing nothing in the perfect somewhere is better than doing something anywhere else. And by nothing, I mean nothing but whatever we wanted to do. We had arrived, and the day was ours to enjoy however we wanted. Bobby, Jesse, and Tim explored the island by jet boat, while Kevin flew the drone. I perfected the art of horizontal relaxation. When the trio returned from their little excursion, they had a funny story to tell. As they neared the entrance to the cross-island channel known as the washing machine, Captain Tim may have been going a little faster than was socially acceptable. As they passed a small anchored boat, Tim asked, "How deep is it through there?" Like it was an SNL Nate Bargatze skit, this Aussie dude in the boat quipped, 3 knots. The guys looked at each other like, what? You ask about depth, I'll give you speed regulations. Don't go over 3 knots. Ha, yeah, whatever. And off they went. Our last night as a group was pretty mellow. I think we were all just basking in the sense of accomplishment we felt. I mean, we had traveled for 10 days and 1,000 miles to get to this place, and quietly soaking it in just felt like the right thing to do. For the piece de resistance, the next morning, Kevin, Tim, and I took the tender out through the washing machine to the other side of the island. We didn't see a single soul the entire time we were out. Having this unimaginable beauty in the middle of the ocean all to ourselves was a gift none of us will soon forget. As we packed up the Daybird and pointed the bow back toward Nassau, it started to sink in that our adventure was reaching its natural conclusion. We had accomplished what we set out to do. There had been no grueling effort, no close calls, no harrowing storms to weather, just long days, tight quarters, and grinding out the miles. It was more of an endurance race than an epic climb. But the reward for the effort on this trip was sweet tranquility on a white sand beach. It was the kind of trip that sticks with you for a long time after you leave. From freezing departures to tropical paradises, torrential downpours to clear sunny skies, rough seas to glass calm waters, from seasickness to sunset cocktails, This wasn't just a boat trip, it was an adventure for the books. They say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. In our case, it was about both. The destination was the reason for the journey. But more important than the destination was who we shared the adventure with. Old friendships were hardened and new ones were formed. Old bonds were fortified as new ones were forming. The ocean changes you. It strips things down, makes you feel small, but also alive in a way that nothing else does. 10 days on the water, 1,000 miles, and a lifetime of stories made and told. And we wouldn't have it any other way.